She left the window open. It was 46 degrees outside. November. Cold enough that you could see your breath in the hallway. And yet, wide open, curtain flapping like some haunted flag. There was a half-drunk glass of wine on the sill. White, not red. She always drinks red. Cabernet or Malbec. Said white wine gave her headaches and reminded her of cheap weddings. And there was a new candle on her nightstand. Not the vanilla one she always burns. This one was cedar and leather. Masculine. It wasn't even lit. It was just there, like someone left it behind in a rush. That's when I realized I hadn't heard the house settle all night. No footfalls on the stairs. No sound of the front door unlocking. No water running upstairs. Just silence. She never came home. Again. But this time, something felt different. The mismatched earring. There was an earring on the bathroom sink. Just one. Not hers. She only wears gold. Always has. This was silver, a little twisted hoop. Delicate. Almost young. Like something a college girl would wear. I just stared at it. I didn't touch it. Couldn't. Like it might burn me. Like it had teeth. I looked up into the mirror, expecting to see myself crying. I wasn't. I was smiling. It scared the hell out of me. The note I wrote her. At 6:17 a.m., I made a cup of coffee. I used her favorite creamer, that overpriced oat milk one with lavender. The one she told me we couldn't afford anymore, but somehow it kept showing up in the fridge anyway. I took one sip, spit it out. It tasted like ashes and lies. So I poured it down the drain and grabbed a sticky note from the junk drawer. I didn't think it through. Didn't plan anything. My hand just moved. I'm leaving. Good luck with your. I didn't finish the sentence. I couldn't decide if the blank should say games or ghosts or boyfriend. Maybe all three. I stuck it to the bathroom mirror, right next to her silver stranger's earring. Then I picked up my keys and left. But I didn't go far. I parked 3 blocks down, turned off the engine, rolled the window down and waited. I watched birds fight over a sandwich in the parking lot of a gas station. I listened to a podcast I didn't hear a single word of. I started counting the people who walked past with coffee cups in their hands. And at exactly 7:54 a.m., she walked into the house. Not from the driveway. From the side. Through the backyard gate. Hair freshly curled. Different coat than the one she left in. And no purse. She looked around before unlocking the sliding door and slipping inside like she was breaking into her own life. She didn't know I saw everything. But I did. It's not about the toothbrush. Or the late nights. Or even the silent phone. It's about how quiet betrayal is when it finally grows roots. And the fact that I think I already know who the earring belongs to. I sat there in the car for another 20 minutes after she slipped inside. Not moving. Not thinking. Just sitting. You know that numb space your brain goes to when your heart finally gives up trying to explain what your eyes already know? That's where I was. And the weirdest part? I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. I just felt like someone had picked up my life and turned it upside down like an old drawer, letting all the junk fall out. Eventually, I saw her silhouette moving through the kitchen window. She was humming. Humming. Like this was just another Tuesday. She made coffee, probably using the same mug I kissed her forehead over 100 mornings in a row. Then I noticed something that made my stomach twist. There were 2 coffee cups on the counter. She only ever makes one. Always has. Says she doesn't like extra mess. I waited. I needed to see if someone else would appear. Maybe he was still there. Maybe he was hiding. Maybe he was in our shower, using my shampoo, towel. Maybe even wearing that stupid, oversized hoodie I left on the chair last week. But no one showed. She moved like she was alone. Calm. Focused. She poured 1 cup of coffee, carried it to the living room. Came back. Picked up the second. Then went upstairs. That was enough for me. I had to go in. I didn't even try to be quiet when I unlocked the front door, which, by the way, she hadn't locked behind her. I stepped inside, and the house felt colder, like it knew what was happening before I did. I walked past the kitchen, and yeah, both mugs were used. Lipstick on one, bare on the other. I didn't go upstairs. I didn't want to see her. Not yet. I went into the den, the room we never really used, the one we always said would be the reading room someday. The one that turned into a dumping ground for Amazon boxes and unopened mail. And that's when I saw it. A shoebox. On the floor. Half covered by an old winter coat. Almost like it had been kicked under there quickly. I don't know why I opened it. Maybe part of me already knew. But I did. And inside were photos. Dozens of them. Printed. Real, glossy photos like we were back in 2004. But these weren't of us. They weren't even from our life. They were of her and him. Some guy I'd never seen before. Tall, buzz cut, tattoos. Most of the pictures were of them in random places. A cabin, a boat, a motel room with bad curtains and champagne bottles on the nightstand. One was of them at a pumpkin patch, holding hands like they'd known each other forever. She was wearing my flannel. The one she told me shrunk in the wash and gave away. The photos weren't hidden. They were stored. Intentionally. Like souvenirs. I felt something inside me buckle. Not break. Not explode. Just fold in on itself. Like a lung giving out. That's when I heard her footsteps upstairs. Getting closer. I shoved the box back under the coat, backed out of the room, and slipped into the hallway closet just before she came down. Yeah, I hid. Like some idiot in a rom-com, but without the comedy. I held my breath as she walked by. She was talking on the phone, laughing softly. She said, "I miss you already," then paused. He's probably still asleep. He never notices anything. My heart stopped. She walked out the front door. I waited until I heard her car drive off, then stepped back out. I stood in the hallway, looking at the front door she'd just closed like it was some kind of portal. Like if I walked through it, I'd walk into someone else's life. A better version of me. One who hadn't just listened to his wife lie to someone else about him being asleep in the very house she was desecrating. But I didn't walk out. I walked back into the den, grabbed the box, and dumped it on the table. And underneath the photos was a burner phone. Still on. Still receiving texts. The last message, from an unsaved number, read, "Did he find out? When can I come back?" I stared at the burner phone for maybe 5 minutes before I even touched it. Just sat there with my hands on my knees like I was in a waiting room for my own life to fall apart. There was a part of me that thought, don't do it. Once you open this, there's no going back. But I already knew I wasn't going back anyway. I tapped the screen. No lock. No passcode. Just open. Like they wanted me to see it eventually. The message was still there at the top, glowing like a bruise. Did he find out? When can I come back? I scrolled. The history wasn't long. Maybe 20 or 30 texts total. But they weren't just texts. There were voice memos. Short ones. Some only a few seconds long. I didn't listen. Not yet. I couldn't hear his voice. Not yet. But I did call the number. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to hear him lie. Maybe I wanted to hear her answer. It rang once. Twice. Then it connected. But no one said anything. I didn't speak either. I just held the phone to my ear and listened. There was breathing on the other end. Soft. Calm. Like whoever it was had been expecting me. Then I heard a laugh. Quiet. Slow. Like something private had just been confirmed. And they hung up. After the call ended, I just sat there staring at the phone like it might start burning a hole through the table. My hands were sweating, but the rest of me felt cold. I didn't call back. I didn't text. I didn't throw the phone or smash it or do any of the things you'd expect a man to do in that moment. I just sat in it. In the silence. In the weight of what I now knew, and the heavier feeling that something still wasn't adding up. I kept coming back to the photos, not just that they existed, but how ordinary they were. They weren't the kind of secret, lusty snapshots you'd expect from an affair. They looked like memories. Like they'd been somewhere together. More than once. Like he wasn't just a mistake, or a fling, or some guy who made her feel wanted for a weekend. This man had been around. And then it hit me. I had seen him before. Not in person. Not at our house, or at her job, or on some mutual friend's social media. But in a picture. A picture she took. One she posted 6 months ago with a throwaway caption like, "Best coffee in town hot beverage," or something stupid. It was a photo of a latte art heart and a scone on a wood grain table. Seemed innocent enough, until I remembered that there was a shadow in that photo. A very clear, very male silhouette reflected in the window behind the cup. At the time, I thought nothing of it. But now I realized it was him. I opened her Instagram. Scrolled until I found it. Same photo. Same stupid caption. I zoomed in on the reflection, and there he was. Same buzz cut. Same jawline. He was smiling at her. Looking directly into the camera. I checked the date. April 14th. She told me she was visiting her sister that weekend. I felt like the floor beneath me shifted. That post got dozens of likes. Comments from her friends. One from me, even. Looks cozy grinning face with smiling eyes, like an idiot. I had no idea I was looking at the man who had already started taking pieces of my life. That wasn't just some guy she met in a bar and fell into bed with. This had roots. This had time behind it. which meant this wasn't just betrayal. It was planning. It was investment. It was intentional. I sat back and stared up at the ceiling, trying to breathe through it. But every inhale felt like pulling air through a straw. My mouth was dry. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I thought about calling someone, a friend, my brother, hell, even my old therapist. But how do you say this out loud? Hey, I just realized my wife has been in a secret relationship with a man who was hiding in plain sight on her Instagram feed for half a year while I was buying her almond milk and planning her birthday. No, I had to keep this quiet. For now. Then I remembered the voice memos. I picked up the burner phone again. Opened the first one. The file name was just a date. May 2nd. I hit play. Her voice came through, soft and laughing. I hate that I have to keep sneaking around, she said. But he's so oblivious. It's almost funny. Oblivious. That was the word she used. Like I was some fool walking around in a cartoon, bumping into walls while she lived this second life right under my nose. And the worst part? She was right. There were 5 more voice memos. I couldn't listen to the rest. Not yet. My ears felt like they were ringing. Or maybe that was just my pride imploding. I turned off the phone, tossed it back into the shoebox, and sat in the dead silence of our home. No, my home. Feeling like a guest in a crime scene that hadn't been reported yet. And that's when I heard it. A car in the driveway. Not hers. Someone else. A door slammed. And then came the knock. The knock wasn't loud. Just 2 calm, deliberate taps on the front door. Like whoever was standing on the other side already knew I was there. Already knew I'd open it. I stood frozen in the hallway, just staring at the door like it might open itself. I don't know why, but I didn't move right away. I waited. Maybe I wanted it to stop. Maybe I thought it was just a package drop or someone lost. Then the knock came again. Same rhythm. 2 knocks. Not rushed. Not nervous. Certain. So I opened the door. The man standing there was tall, mid-40s, black jacket, calm face. Not the guy from the photos. Not the one with my flannel or the buzz cut. This was someone else. Someone I'd never seen before. But he smiled like he knew me. Eli, he said, nodding once. Can we talk? He knew my name. I didn't ask how. I didn't respond. I just held the door halfway open, blocking the entry with my foot like some kind of subconscious self-defense. My mouth went dry. Who are you? I asked. He looked over his shoulder once, casually, like he was checking for neighbors, then leaned in slightly. I'm the guy she was lying to about him, he said. I think we're both being played. I didn't invite him in. At least, not right away. He didn't push. Just stood there on my porch with his hands in his coat pockets like we were old friends catching up over a beer, not 2 complete strangers both apparently screwed over by the same woman. He introduced himself as Mark. No last name. Just Mark. I asked how he knew my name, and he said it so casually it nearly knocked me over. She used it once. On speaker. I remembered it. That would have been enough to rattle me, but then he added, I didn't think much of it. She told me you were her cousin. Her cousin. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because my brain just snapped. I'd gone from oblivious husband to imaginary relative in someone else's life, and I couldn't even process it properly. She told you I was her cousin, I repeated. Mark nodded. Said she was staying with you after a breakup. That she needed time to figure things out. He paused. I found out last week that she's married. To you. I let him in. We sat in the living room. I didn't offer coffee. Didn't pretend to be polite. I just wanted answers. I needed someone to explain the version of my wife that he knew. Mark leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and for the next 10 minutes, he told me everything. They met almost a year ago. At a bookstore. She told him she was a freelance editor. Said she lived in Beacon Hill, alone. No kids, no family nearby. They started slow, coffee dates, a few long walks, a couple of weekends away. Eventually, it got serious. She never introduced him to any friends. Always claimed she liked to keep things simple. Clean, he said. That was the word she used. He thought it was strange, but she was convincing. She had rules. They only texted on Signal. She didn't want pictures of them online. And she never, ever let him pick her up from wherever she was staying. But the part that broke me wasn't that she'd built an entirely separate life. It was that she said she loved him, multiple times. And apparently, she was planning to move in with him next month. She had told him she'd finally cut ties with her past. I guess I was the past. At one point, he pulled out his phone and showed me messages, long ones. Romantic ones. Ones I remembered her not texting me during those same weekends. While I was cooking dinner and wondering if I'd done something wrong, she was telling him she couldn't wait to build a life with him. I asked him if he knew the guy in the photos, the buzz cut, the tattoos, the one she went pumpkin picking with. He blinked. There's another guy? So, it wasn't a triangle. It was a web. Mark wasn't the other man. He was one of the other men. And now I realized. I wasn't even her main story. I was just the one she never cleaned up. The one that stuck around longer than he was supposed to. The whole time he was talking, my chest felt tighter and tighter. Not from anger. That had burned out. Not even from betrayal. Because that word suddenly felt too small. It was confusion. Deep, nauseating confusion about how a person could live this many lives and keep them from crashing into each other. And why? Why do this? To me? To him? To whoever else was still out there, checking their phones, waiting for her next lie. When he finally left, I didn't walk him out. I just sat there on the couch, staring at the place where he'd been sitting, trying to rewind the last hour of my life and find the point where I'd stepped into someone else's script. Then I looked over at the burner phone. New message. Not from Mark. Not from the tattooed guy. It was from her. Just one line. Coming home early. Don't say anything until I talk to you. She knew. The sound of her key in the door nearly made me drop the burner phone. She walked in like she always did. Coat half off, phone in hand, keys in her mouth, like she'd just come back from buying oat milk and not from stringing 3 lives together by the thinnest, shakiest thread. Her eyes scanned the room, fast but not panicked. She smiled when she saw me on the couch. Hey, she said. You're home. I said nothing. She took a step forward. I was going to call, but I know. Her smile cracked. Just for a second. But I saw it. The exact moment it slipped, like she wasn't sure which version of herself I had caught. The girlfriend? The wife? The liar? She blinked and tilted her head slightly, like she was about to try on a different emotion, one that might still work. Know what? I held up the burner phone. Her face didn't change. Not surprise. Not guilt. Just calculation. I expected her to cry, deny, scream. But she didn't. She sat down across from me, crossed her legs, and folded her hands like we were in a mediation session. Okay, she said calmly. How much do you think you know? Not what do you know. Not I'm sorry. Just how much. And that was the moment I knew. This wasn't her first cleanup. We sat there for a long time. No shouting. No dramatics. Just quiet. The kind that makes every word feel like it weighs 10 pounds. She didn't deny anything. Not the burner phone. Not Mark. Not the guy from the photos. Not even the voice messages. What caught me off guard was that, once she realized there was nothing left to hide, she actually told the truth. Not a version of it. Not the kind that twists halfway through. Just all of it. She said she'd been unraveling for over a year. That pretending to be okay inside our life made her feel like she was suffocating. That none of the people she got involved with were serious at first. She just needed to feel like someone was choosing her. Like she could still surprise herself. It sounded pathetic. But it also sounded real. I asked why she didn't just leave. She said something I'll probably think about for the rest of my life. Because I loved you, in a way that made me hate myself. I don't even fully understand what that means. But it didn't sound like an excuse. It sounded like a confession. We talked for hours. About everything. Not just the cheating, about us, and how we'd been living beside each other instead of with each other. How I'd been fading too, slowly, but said nothing. Just quietly let things rot. At the end of it, I asked her what she wanted. Not what she thought she should say, what she actually wanted. She looked at me, eyes puffy, makeup gone, and whispered, I think I want to let you go, the right way this time. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like we were finally being honest with each other. I didn't forgive her. Not fully, but I understood. And weirdly, I didn't feel broken. I felt free. Not just from her, but from the version of myself that thought staying silent would keep things safe. A week later, I moved out. No screaming. No lawyers. No scorched earth. Just a quiet split and a shared goodbye hug that actually felt earned. Now I'm living in a 1-bedroom apartment with bad wallpaper and decent sunlight. I'm learning how to cook food that doesn't come from a microwave. I sleep like a rock most nights. And the other day, I saw someone on the street laugh so hard they dropped their coffee, and I laughed too. I forgot I could do that. Sometimes the most unexpected ending is the one where nobody wins, but no one has to keep losing either. I don't hate her. I don't miss her. But I do hope she finds a version of herself she doesn't have to lie for. And as for me, I think I'm finally starting to like who I'm becoming without her.